Hello and welcome to the Portadown preview show. It looks like we're live from Shamrock Park here as we're joined by Mark Beattie, who is currently pitchside. Mark, how are you keeping?
Absolutely. It's what's at 9:30 here, and the sun is shining according to this picture.
It's sunny as well. Oh, you did just say that. Never mind. Never mind. Oh my God. Um, so at the minute it's just going to be me and Mark, but we might be having a surprise arrival. When I say surprise, it's Johnny Dunlop, not to disappoint anybody. He might be making it on, so if he's on soon, happy days. If not, then so be it. So before I crack on, I'd just like to say, don't forget to like and subscribe to the Weird Reports TV YouTube channel, and this will be on Spotify, Anchor, and Apple Podcasts. Am I right?
Yep, that's right. I
That's
think it's
all.
actually on a few different podcast apps as well, but I think the ones you mentioned are the main ones.
Excellent. Right, so we'll get straight into proceedings then. Saturday, Portadown travelled to our old nemesis, Glentoran, at the Oval, and unfortunately came away with a 3-1 defeat. So, Mark, what were your thoughts on the game?
Um, what a start! The first was a 6 minutes in, and Michael Ruddy slaps one in from about 25, 30 yards, and with we're in dreamland. Well, whoever was there was in dreamland because wasn't there big backlogs on the West Link, and the supporters buses didn't get in time even to see the goal. It was really weird, the goal going in, because he was celebrating in front of the fans and there only was 20 or 30 there at the time. So I tried my best to make sure I shouted for more than what I usually do. So no, it was odd, but it was a perfect start to a match for us. A great goal, one probably goal of the season contender already in my view anyway. Um, and then it was back to the game plan of sit deep, be compact, be hard to break down, work hard off the ball, and I thought generally we were good at it. The game plan was probably right. What let us down was just a few individual mistakes. Glentoran's first goal came from a slip. Reece Jordan, who for me was man of the match, I thought he was coming up against Conor McManaman, who's pound for pound one of the best wingers, attacking players in the league. And he kept them quiet generally for everything but the goal he got towards the end, which was a sort of last few minutes goal. But it was Reece Jordan that slipped that led in the Glentoran striker, and despite Jeff and Barr saving the first half, the second one went in and whatever. And even at that, I don't think Glentoran opened us up in the first half whatsoever. Outside of the individual slip. So the game plan was probably right, but sometimes you just can't you can't account for individual mistakes, and there was some of them again in the second half. Paul Finnegan was caught on the ball. For I think it was the third goal he's caught on the ball for, and the second one he tried to clear it and he didn't quite get enough on it or whatever. But that's sometimes when you go somewhere like the Oval, Glentoran were unbeaten, or maybe have won the last 6 or 7 in a row. So they were full of confidence and on form. And when you go there, a team in our position, you go with the game plan of trying to frustrate, and getting an early goal gives you something to fight for and hold on to. Um, as I said, game plan was there. It's just sometimes you can't account for individual mistakes, and I think that's what let us down. And if you talk about the individual mistakes at the back, which we did concede goals from, the opposite end of that, there was individual mistakes up front because there was a couple of decent chances that we had. Sammy McLeod had a good chance to get an effort away, but chose to pass. Adam Sally had a good chance, but Reece Marshall got back and tackled, and Ocean Connolly as well had a good chance. So there was individual mistakes all over. If we take those half chances, it's an absolutely different game. But hey, that's the fine margins that there is in football.
Yeah, it's. I know it's not maybe a case of stay out of phrase. So I've just got confirmation there that Johnny cannot make it. So
Oh,
it's just me and you tonight. Uh, so I don't want to say like by hitting the self-destruct button because I think that's maybe a wee bit too harsh, but I think the old phrase shoot yourself in the foot. I think that would sum Portland up quite well at the minute. I think, we're in games generally most weeks and, a couple of silly dopey mistakes and bang, we're suddenly behind after
yeah.
sticking to the game plan, so to speak. And, like you say about it, when you're up against the Glens, you do need everything to go your way when
Yeah.
you're there because listen, love them or hate them, they are a good side, and they are starting to ascend now. They're not far off the top place and stuff. So, um, it's always disappointing to lose to them. But again, I just don't think it can be too harsh. But I mean, it's the fixtures are coming thick and fast, and you can't really beat around the bush. We really do need a win here, like, so
Yeah.
it just sort of feels like you're so close to it, but it just at the same time it's just sort of so far. But Michael Ruddy
Yeah,
loves
at
to
the
go
end of the
against the
day,
Friends.
he does. He seems to really love the oval. And yeah, you're right. We just need a win. I don't care how it comes or where it comes. Just one as soon as possible. Like you say, the games come thick and fast. It's Christmas time. They always do. Pitches are heavy. And the oval pitch was heavy on Saturday. There was a lot of water on it, and there was a lot of rain. In a few days leading up to it, so it wasn't. It was a hard slog. Pulls the legs out of a few players. There are players playing for us that probably shouldn't be playing, but because of the situation of other players missing, they're forced to play through a few injuries when maybe not 100%. Um, and for a squad like us, like ours, can't really afford more than a couple missing. You have to be fully fighting, and we are struggling in that end as well. It's this. I know from interviewing Matthew Tipton, he doesn't want to talk about it because it just sounds like an excuse. But from what I can see, it's real. Like there are boys out there that they really shouldn't be playing football. They should have 3 or 4 weeks off to fully recover. But they're putting themselves forward and saying, "No, I'll play. No, I'll do it," because they want to do it. And sometimes that's not seen. And I don't know, is it harsh to then complain about them when they're not able to perform at their highest? Maybe, but at the end of the day, they're still wearing a Port shirt and they're on the pitch, and you expect a lot of them. They're
Yeah.
wearing the badge, which is heavy. So they have to carry it.
Yeah. No, it's funny that you say about the injuries, because funny, my friend, he actually was texting me the other day, and he said himself, he's like, Borderline have absolutely no luck with injuries at the minute. He goes, it's shocking, like, but
I think it was a few weeks ago.
it's
Actually, it was at the Cruise game last week. I put together very close to a starting 11 of missing players at the minute, and this Irish League level of 11. Um, So yeah, you're missing an awful lot of players, and like I say, we don't always have the biggest squad at Portadown. We can't afford to go out and have 25 players, one or two at every position, and be able to cope with that. So yeah, luck is a thing, but you have to make your own luck too. So we're still fielding on 11 that we think can do a job, and we'll have to trust them and hope to do it.
yeah, absolutely. And I think as well, people got to remember we played midweek, at Seaview. Glentoran got the night off.
Yeah.
So, that they obviously got an extra few days recovery, which would make a difference, especially for, well, they're already full time. Like, so
Yeah.
I wouldn't be too harsh about Saturday there. Yes, of course, it's disappointing to lose. Like, it's disappointing to lose any game, but I think it's harsh to be too critical. And
But
in my
then
opinion,
it's the frustration from supporters watching is the build up, because if you don't win matches, the pressure just rolls over and rolls over and rolls over, and it increases every time. So that's what's been happening. So it's the big games against teams around you, that if you take them points off them teams, comes to games like Saturday, and a loss isn't really a massive deal. Whereas because you lost them matches or didn't pick up points, then it becomes a bigger deal as it pushes down the road. So the sooner you get a win, the monkey off your back again, and you're sort of rolling again, aren't you?
Well, we have one of them big games, so to speak, coming in the not so distant future, but we will touch on that next week. We'll leave it there at the Oval. We'll move on to this week's weekly feature. So, as discussed earlier on, this week's weekly feature will be your least favourite and favourite Irish League grounds. Now, this doesn't just have to be Premier League; it can be wherever or whenever,
Good.
So, because I'm sure there's a few places on the list that a lot of people maybe won't have been to and stuff, but because they maybe don't even exist anymore. You know what I mean? Not that I'm saying that you're older than like that, but you know what I mean. There's a few clubs that have disappeared over the years, like so. I'll tell you what. We'll start with least fave. That's always funnier. you can go first, and we'll do it in descending order then. So in third place, what's your least favorite Irish League ground?
We'll do the bottom three.
Oh yeah.
Right. My
For
okay.
whatever reason as well. It doesn't necessarily have to be specifically the ground. It could be that, both, whatever you want.
Right. Bottom has to be the Welders. No, sorry. Not my this is my third worst. So this is my first worst would be the worst, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So my third worst is the Welders, and simply because I think maybe the last time I was there, it was pissing down, and as I walked in, I didn't go to the path. I walked over the grass and soaked my feet, and it was freezing all day. So that's the reason that it's my third worst football ground, because my feet were wet.
So that's a pretty reasonable reason. Like, and plus the pitch used to be like that, slant as
Oh,
well.
it was like a wave. It was like up and
Yeah.
down. There was a picture of one of our players playing in it, and you couldn't see the football, but it was there because the pitch was that wavy. The ball was in the lower end of it, and the player was up high.
Mm. Their new ground looks very nice, actually. To be
It
fair.
does. It really does. Yeah,
So
it definitely looks the part.
okay, so third place for me, I am going to go the Ballymena Showgrounds, which is probably quite surprising because, it's sort of seen as one of the best grounds in the league. But we talked about this the other week on the show, and it's always freezing no matter when you go.
Yep.
Or I always get beat.
So fair enough.
You're always so far. You're not even that far away from the pitch, but you just feel like you are. And especially, I think it's because you've got the two stands, and they're just obviously at polar opposite ends of the pitch. It just sort of feels like that side's miles away from you.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty much why. We always get beat. So I suppose it's not good to think we actually play there in a couple of weeks. So yeah, third place and going to Ballymena Showgrounds. So
second worst place then. This was a tie for me. My first worst is my definite, but I don't know about these two. It was either the Oval or Windsor, and
right.
people will think, oh, they're actually two big grounds, or whatever. I hate the Oval because my worst ever day following football has been there in the Irish Cup final 2015, but I don't want to talk about it, so we'll ignore that. I don't like Windsor for an Irish League ground. I love the Windsor for Northern Ireland ground. Hate it for an Irish League ground because there's been outside of Irish Cup finals. It's usually there's too many empty spaces. There's no atmosphere at it, and you can generate as much as you want, but it just doesn't feel. I prefer to be tight, close grounds where you're on top of the action. Fans are close to you, like the old sheds. The Windsor Park when there's an actually, and even as in the media team last year, I was up at the very back of the south stand, and I mean, you talk about miles away from the action, you feel like you're in a different postcode, never mind at the same ground. So yeah, Windsor Park, it's not a normal one because it's lovely seats and it's comfortable, but just for atmosphere, I have never really enjoyed it as an Irish League ground.
No, I fully get that, and especially in games where maybe, take for example the season we get relegated. I remember we played there on a Friday night. We actually drew one each, but it was Adam Foley scored a great goal, and
he chipped Roy Carl, that's right.
But like Linfield, that like they went on. Hold on, did they win the league that year? They did go on to win the league that year, but I think at that stage it was sort of like you didn't know if they were going to kick on, and there wasn't. They didn't have a great crowd that night and stuff. And I remember at the time like thinking, this is pathetic for a Linfield match, and like on a Friday night as well. And it was obviously exaggerated because the ground had only been done up like the year or two before that, and it was just sort of like, this looks really poor, like. So I totally appreciate that at the same time, like. So my second place is Newry away, the Newry Showgrounds, funny enough. And I just, the reason being, obviously the road is now opened up the whole way down, the dual carriageway, down from Belfast. And I just, as a kid, back in the day, years ago, when my dad would have been like driving us down, and it used to be the windy road down to
Yeah.
Newry, and I just hated it, absolutely hated it with a passion. And then going, it just even I don't. We lost a few games down there as well, and I don't know. It's just always been the drive put me off, and even though the dual carriageway is open now and you can go straight down and be there in like half the time, it's
Yeah.
still just I'm just like, nah, I don't like it. And do you know
Of
what? It's
course.
the same for Warren Point, because you still go down that way. But
Yeah.
I've just always, from a kid, just bad memories of that, and it's just stuck in my head. So
Fair enough.
there was one as well. We played a Sky match against Newry
That's right.
on a Monday night,
On
and we
Monday
got
night.
beat
Yeah.
4-2. And I
Yeah.
always remember we went down and we were behind the net, and it was absolutely pelting down with rain. And it was just like, this is miserable.
Yeah.
And so it's always just sort of stuck in my head. Like, so yeah, that's my second least favorite ground. So
Fair enough.
what's your winner then? Or loser, so to
So
speak?
I was going to go with Ballymena Showgrounds simply because it's so cold.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually there watching a Portdown Reserve game one time. I don't know why. I was up there on my own, and it was the coldest place in the world. Like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's in the middle of summer. It's always cold. But because you put them in your bottom three, I'm going to go for a very personal experience of Cold Rain Showgrounds.
Right.
Again, lovely ground, tidy, Irish League, perfect. But because Alan Simpson one time scared the absolute bejesus out of me before a match, end of season, very few people there. One of them games you just play, there's nothing riding on the match for either team. It's soulless, empty, no music going. And just before kickoff, he shouted down the mic as loud as he could, "Come on, the bandsiders!" And honestly scared the absolute crap out of me. So for that one experience, it's my worst ground.
Right. Okay. I wasn't expecting that one. Like, so no, but listen, all reasons are applicable here. In first place for me, I am going to go with Lisburn Distillery.
Yeah, good shout.
And
That's a good shout.
again, it's just sort of memories from being a kid, and you just, because the dog track went round it, you just sort of
Yeah,
felt like you were miles away.
there's
And again,
pubs
because
everywhere.
exactly, and then because, and it was always a nightmare. Like, if your car was parked in there, your
Yeah,
feet would get stinking no
yeah,
matter what.
yeah, yeah,
And I always remember, like, I remember we played up there one night and we got beat 2-0, and it was a Tuesday night, and it was like, because it's just outside of Belfast and it's on a hill. Again, it sort of felt like the showgrounds, freezing cold,
yeah.
wet, windy, miserable. And Portadown, for a few years there,
We always
like in
struggled.
the we always struggled there. So
Yeah,
I would have always said the story, and plus they've no fans. Well, they certainly don't now, like, but they didn't back
yeah,
then. It was just like
yeah.
40 or 50 people. It felt soulless. And I remember I went and done a night at the races there, or the dog racing one night, and it felt strange being there. I was just like, this is really weird. Like, it felt like, why am I here? And there's Port Ireland playing. It's weird. So
Yeah. Fair enough.
yeah, so that's my first place, Lisburn Distillery, Ballysky. So there we go.
Fair
Right, we'll
enough.
spin it round the other way around. What's your three? Go. Do you know what? Give us your three all in one go. Then your three favorite away grounds and why you like traveling there.
I had two, so I'm gonna have to think of a third. But I'll give you the other two. So the first one was Stanmore Park, Dungannon. I've always liked it. Again, it's that Irish League thing where you're on top of the fans, or top of the players. Sorry, fans are really in the action. You're only a few yards away. If you stand anywhere, you're only a few yards away from the touchline. There's nowhere to hide in that wee ground, and good surface. There's always good football played at it, no matter what time of year. And generally down the years, I know maybe this year's been different now, but down the years we've always played pretty well up there. So it's always been a relatively enjoyable match. There's been the odd time where we've got our pants pulled down, but generally we've done all right. So yeah, Stanmore Park, Dungannon Swifts. Also, Dara Park, Derg VFC in Castle Derg. I've always loved going there.
Really?
Yeah, for one reason is that I've
Mhm.
never went there and came home the same night. there's a small group of us go there and they book the hotel in Castleberg and stay the night. And honestly, it's the weirdest wee town, but it's a class wee town. That's why I've always enjoyed going there. Actually, the first year I went there was it 08, 09 when we were in the championship the last time, the first
Yeah.
time, and was it the supporters had their fancy dress day that day, and it was sort of the start of summer sort of time, or maybe September, so the weather was still good enough, and we all went down dressed as Mexicans, and it was just class crack. It was really enjoyable. Bar's good, um, close to the action. We won, so yeah, Castle Derg BFC.
I would have had that close to being in my top three worst experiences because again the drive there is horrendous. Like
It is
so,
really bad, but it's okay when you split it into two, into like go in the Saturday and come back to Sunday.
this is very true. This is very true. So who's your other two then?
Well, it was Stangmore Park and
Oh,
Dara
sorry,
Park.
yeah, yeah.
Now my third one, favorite wise, I hate to do it. I hate to do it, but it's Mournview Park. Um, and I'm gonna yeah, it's probably one of the perfect Irish League grounds, three sided anyway. When the hospital lane on this terrace, and I thought it was perfect. You know, everything was close. It was tidy. It was the right size for Irish League crowds and stuff, and the atmosphere was generally good. I do miss the sheds, no matter what away ground you go to. The banter in the sheds at Mournview, the Oval, Seaview, all them grounds were brilliant. Like it was brilliant crack. But um, yeah, and yeah, let's be honest. Up until whatever years ago, we were always good down there, over there. So I've had many a day where I've come away quite satisfied. So yeah, Moorview Park is up there with me as well.
Right, okay. Fair enough. Listen, I think if you ask any Irish League fan, a lot of people would have Monty Park if like definitely in their top three, but a lot of them would actually say it's number one. Like, and it is a tidy wee ground as well, and the pitch is always good and whatnot. Like, so yeah, I don't really think you can argue. I'm not going to include it in my top three, but
Go for it.
um, so I I like Carrick Rangers away, Taylor's Avenue, and
Just around the corner.
well, that too, but it's just. But you're right, like you say, you're right on the pitch. You're very close and enclosed, and I like that, like you say. And again, our record hasn't been very good there the last 5-6 years, but just like I'm sure you've noticed yourself the changes that have been made at that wee ground, and I actually think Taylor's Avenue is a lovely ground now. Like it used to be wick. Like I'm not gonna lie, whenever we were playing there and stuff, and it would be gravel the whole way around and all, and the pitch was like a slope, and it's still a wee bit like that now, but it's nowhere near as bad. But it's all tarmacked out, and they've done loads of work to it and stuff. And I like it because it's so close to the pitch, and obviously I have friends that are Carrick fans, so bit of stick and all, like that's good crack. So just need Portland to win a few games there, and it'll be much better.
Yeah.
Like,
They just
but
need sort of that long end beside the road that goes up, the where the dugouts are. If they had some
yeah,
sort of stand there, even small terracing stand, it would really tidy up the ground a whole lot, wouldn't it?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It would close
So
it off.
I enjoy Taylor's Avenue. My second favorite ground would be I like Seaview, and again we haven't had a great run there recently, but even just going back like back in the day and stuff, it was always like you had the old fence around it, and
Yeah,
or sorry, it was an old white wall,
it was.
and
Yeah,
it was you were very very close to the pitch there, and again Portadown, back say in the Vinnie Arkins era and stuff, we used to go to Seaview, and it was like a
yeah,
banker every time that we were going to win two, three,
yeah,
or four. Um, so again, I've always like Seaview good memories there. I remember, the trophy in 1996 and stuff as well. Like so, win the league and also, um, some good memories there. And I remember scoring there and winning four, and we've won three there and stuff a few times now. Like so, just good memories. And you know what? To be fair, uh, one memory I always have from, and I think I've mentioned this before, we were playing Crusaders away, and it was around Christmas 1996, and I always remember there was a bit of slabbering between the Crusaders fans and the Portadown fans in that away, and that big shed, so to speak, like you said. And whenever they were there was obviously a bit of bickering and all, but suddenly one of the stewards, I think, got distracted and left. There used to be the wee door at the bottom,
Yeah.
And suddenly the door swung open, and a Portadown fan who'd been slabbering the whole game wasn't paying attention, and a Crusaders fan ran in and decked him and floored him, and then ran into the Crusaders end again.
Jeez.
And there was like a big cheer and all. I just was sort of, I just remember I was only about 8, and I just remember laughing, and I was just like, your man's just lying there like nothing. So,
I used to remember that wee door because even when I was going and had the shed there, there used to be some amount of banter flying between two fans, and then at half time, the chip wagon was on the other side, so they just opened the gate and everybody walked and just sort of half mingled, and then went for the second half, started slabbering again. So
uh,
everybody's breathing
CV,
behind the fence.
CV's a good one. And the work they've done there, it's
Yeah,
tidy, and I've played it at CV a few times myself, like, and it's cool playing on it and all, like.
yeah,
But in first place for me, my favorite away ground is the Oval, and it just goes back to again being a kid, and I've said it before, when you're in that the away shed, but when you were facing the home stand to me always looked quite intimidating because it
yeah.
wasn't wide, but it was high, so it looked like it very imposing over the pitch and stuff.
Yeah.
And again, great memories at the Oval. There was always a big crowd. You guaranteed Mickey Collins was winding the Glen men up and all. Like, I always, again, and we talked about it the other week at that event and stuff, but like even the other week, just the memories of Mickey giving them the fingers and all. It's just, oh, it was just
Yeah.
great stuff. And again, I don't lost count how many times with bricks and all that as well. Like, so I've always liked the Oval. Obviously, there's bad memories there as well in the 2015 Irish Cup final, but we'll not talk about that. But it's just an old-fashioned ground. It's an absolute dive. Like, it is a dive, but there's something
Yeah.
not romantic, but traditional or something about it, and I like it. So yeah.
Upper was great, isn't it?
Well, this is it. Like, even over in England and stuff, if you're going to Premier League games, whatever, and some of the older grounds are the best ones
Yeah.
still.
Like
For
Goodison
Abbott.
Park and
That's
whatever.
exactly the one I was thinking of there.
Yeah.
Apart from the fact Arsenal got beat there the other night, like, but but I've been to Goodison, and Goodison old school ground, and something like it's similar and over here. Like the Oval
Yeah.
is still an old school ground, and actually when you sort of think of the Belfast Four, so to speak, there's Windsor Park's been completely done up, Seaview's been transformed, and then Solitude as well. Like, obviously it's got the away stand now. Years ago it wasn't there. The Oval hasn't changed.
Yeah.
It's always been like that in my
Yeah.
lifetime anyway. So I think it is definitely need an upgrade. Like, but it would be. I think it would sort of take away from the away trip to the Oval.
Yeah, definitely would.
And again, even with the planes flying over it, like, really low down, it's just another sort of added feature to it, and you can see the Harlan Wolf and all in the background. I just think it's pretty cool. So yeah, that's the only nice thing I'll ever say about Glentoran, to be fair. Like, so there you go. You have a nice ground, but other than that, nah, you're not getting no
Nothing
more
else.
compliments. Nothing else. Right. So before we wrap the show up, this weekend we entertained Cliftonville, who have obviously been on the end of a bit of controversial officiating, so to speak. That's something we have in common. But they've been on the end of some controversial officiating there during the week in the Countdown Shield semi-final against Linfield. So they're going to be out for blood. They've dropped a couple of points as well in the league recently. What's your take on into Saturday here? Big game.
It's about yeah. It's a game that I think you talked about it in a pod before that you sort of it's one of them teams coming to Summer Park. You sort of fancy getting a go at them. Going to Solitude is always different because they're always very good at their own ground. But I don't know. There's something about certain teams coming to Summer Park and just said this. They're not outside of our reach to get something out of the game. Listen, they're a really good side. We know that. We've seen the firepower they have. I think so Gormley, Curran, like the names are proper Irish League top talents. But I know they're missing a few players. There's a few injuries about that squad as well. And I just hope that our boys can do their thing. Like we talk about they played us in the quarterfinal of the League Cup, and there was not a whole lot of difference in the team. It was really the fitness in the extra time that told the end. I think we were sort of half on our feet, whereas they they brought on players that could change the game and did. And that was the difference in the end. And I don't know. I would love us to put out. We've had a week's rest now, where Cliftonville haven't, so that can maybe play a wee bit in our hands as well. I know our manager said that they wouldn't be in on a Monday and Tuesday doing full thing. There's more tactical stuff and on the whiteboards, whatever, just because they haven't had the bodies to do it. So hopefully that maybe pays off a wee bit of rest into the legs. Yeah, Summer Park. I fancy playing anybody at Summer Park. And I think that's the way our players look at it as well. And you can tell that with some of the performances against some of the big sides that have came to Shamrock Park. I know there's been a few disappointments as well this season there, but outside of that, Linfield have came and found it hard. Lauren have done the same twice, found it hard. There's no reason why we can't do the same with Cliftonville coming on Saturday.
I think from the quarterfinal, there's plenty of positives to be taken from that performance because, like you said, we sort of just ran out of steam at the end, and the substitutions that night, made a massive difference for them. But they found it tough, very tough that night. And funny, I was actually speaking to a Cliftonville player there the other week, and he was, and he was saying himself, he was like, "Oh, we found it really tough down at Shamrock Park, so." Fingers crossed we can replicate that again and get a result, because that night, maybe I'm sure I wasn't the only one that maybe sort of fell in the trap. Maybe during the game I sort of thought we're going to do it, and then just it felt so disappointing in the end, because I actually thought if we can get this win, we're in the semi-finals. And honestly, I really was convinced we get the semi-final, we'll get to the final. Like, I was so convinced of that as well, and we would have got a home draw too. But it's all ifs and buts, isn't it? But they played well that night, and just were unlucky in the end. And I think if Portadown could bring that into this Saturday, it would, as you say, at Shamrock Park we don't seem to fear anybody. But it's just getting that win, and if we could beat Cliftonville, it would be a good statement of intent as well.
Absolutely.
And fingers crossed. Mark, what's obviously this Saturday? We'll talk about it here. They're doing Santa Saturday this weekend. So am I right in saying that a paying adult can get a primary school child in for free? Am I right in saying that?
Yeah. So a paying adult gets primary school kind of free, and as far as I'm aware, they get a Santa hat and a wee bit of selection box as well on the way in. So, and also anybody who has a Santa hat is on, no matter doesn't matter what age you are, bringing it along. It'll add to the whole day. It's our last home game before Christmas as well, so it's a bit of a celebration. There's a toy appeal as well for the natives, the Salvation Army. So if you can bring along a toy, it'll go to someone who needs a wee bit of Christmas cheer as well. So there's quite a few things happening on Saturday actually. There's the volunteer lunch. The board of directors have asked the volunteers around the club along before the match for a wee pre-match lunch, basically, to say thank you for all their hard work. And the Santa Hat Saturday going on. There's quite a lot going on as well, from what I can see.
Yep, indeed. Come down and spread the cheer, spread the love, and hopefully it will be a fun-filled afternoon at Shamrock Park on Saturday and on the pitch as well. So fingers crossed for 3 points. Mark, thank you very much for taking the time to come on the show. It's been an absolute pleasure, and keep the background for next time as well.
Perfect, yeah.
So, yes, folks, thank you for listening as always, or watching. And don't forget to like and subscribe to We Are Ports TV YouTube channel, and check us out on Spotify, Anchor, and Apple Podcasts. Cheers, goodbye.
See you later.